audio is on. You are live now.
Hey everybody! It's Wednesday night.
Hold on.
It says I'm muted now.
Okay.
All right. Hey everyone! Thanks for tuning in tonight. It is the fourth and last class of the door framing panel door class, and tonight we're going to hang the door and fit it. And hopefully this will not be a painful process for me. I think it should not be too bad. As with the case always, if you have a question, just ask in the chat feature and Joe will read it out and I'll answer it live. And if you have any questions, so tonight, if you have questions about the entire process, any part of the process, you can feel free to ask them. You can also always post questions to the community for the class, and I'll answer them. I don't think I've missed any. I'll go and double check. So there's that. But yeah, so tonight is the last one, and I just want to start by saying thank you for signing up for the class. I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully it has been informative and useful, and that it encourages you to take more, because I'll definitely be doing more. Next up is going to be some box making classes, and I haven't exactly determined when we're going to start. I think we are going to take a short break because we're also right now doing the photography for my next book. So I need to be writing that and stuff. So it might be the thing that might not start until like mid-April when I'm supposed to have all that material in. So anyways, it's going to be some box making stuff. If you have requests of classes that you would like me to teach, pop them into the community, or I would say send me an email, but don't send me an email because I get so many that they get lost at times. But the community is a good place to do it. All right, so let us get started. Last week, we routed all of our hinge mortises. We routed them in the door, and we also routed them in the cabinet, or rather in the hinge strip. And if we just move over here, I have already glued in the hinge strip, because in order to do what we're going to do tonight, it needs to be glued in, and we don't really have time to wait for it, so I couldn't really do it live. But it's just a simple process. Glue onto the strip and then clamp it to the cabinet. I have inset the strip about 1/16 of an inch, and the door is also going to be inset about 1/16 of an inch. And I think we talked about this last time about doing the inset is beneficial in a couple of ways, because it's really like if you make things perfectly flush right now, because of wood movement, they're not going to stay perfectly flush. So that's why you'll see, especially like Mike Pekovich, everything is offset for him, and that's part of the reason is that it sort of started out as that, but now it's like his aesthetic as well. But I inset the door partly for that, but also because if the door is a little wonky through time and it's flush, then a part of it's going to be sticking out past the cabinet, and that kind of looks like crap. But if it's inset, then most likely it's not going to be sticking out in front of the cabinet, and it really won't be noticeable. And the drawers too will be inset the same amount as the door. Eventually, I am going to finish this cabinet. All right, so let's get started then. The first thing that we're going to do is mount the hinges in the cabinet and also drill holes for them in the door. And that way we can hang the door and see how well it fits just right now. That's the first thing we want to do. And also it'll tell us how big the gap is. So when the hinge is on there, the door is on there, and we close the door, there's going to be a gap between the hinge strip and the door, and that gap sort of sets what the gap around the rest of the door is going to be. You want it to be uniform. So that's why, so the first thing we need to do is hang it. Let me move this out the way. Where's a good location for this, Joe?
That's fine.
That's fine.
I can move a little closer too.
Alright. So I'm going to take, got my 2 hinges. Now a hinge is always, how closely can you zoom in on that? Let's get that. Alright. So you see that this hinge, right? There's 2 leaves. One of the leaves is wider than the other one. So the one over here, this is hard for me. This one is wider than that one. I normally put this one in the cabinet and this one in the door. I don't think it really matters, but that's what I do. So I'm going to just put this into... Oh! Okay, let me go back to last week. At the end of last week, remember how I had to adjust one of the mortises a little bit after I routed it? And I said at the end of class that if you have to adjust them, you adjust the top of both of them. And that was wrong. Okay? You do not want to change the distance between the 2 hinges. So if you have to adjust the length of the mortise to accommodate the hinge, on the top one, you adjust it at the top. And on the bottom one, you adjust it at the bottom. And that way you don't change the distance between them, which is identical to the distance between them on the hinge strip. And that's what you don't want to screw up. So you can adjust it on the bottom mortise and the top of the top mortise. That's the correct way to do it. And I realized that I had misstated that as soon as Joe left and I sat down in the chair by the fireplace and had started drinking beer. So, anyways, I'm glad I remembered to say that now. Oh man, look at that crap. Okay, so
Let me get a little tighter here, man.
all right.
Bear with us for just a second.
Joe's moving the camera right now.
I'm hitting everything on the way there.
We should have a better screen for that, rather than my logo. It should be like a
Your face?
cartoon. I'll do like a robot cartoon. It'll say technical difficulties or something. All right.
David says, so beer adds clarity to one's thinking. I like Matt's philosophy.
Well, I didn't say how much I'd had. I just finally had a chance to sit down and think. So I'm using a type of drill bit that is called a VIX bit. That's the brand name, and it's sort of like Kleenex too. People call them all VIX bits now, but it's a sort of a self-centering bit. So it has this sleeve down here, and this sleeve will get pushed up into the cylinder. But it has a little cone turned onto it at the end, and that fits into the countersink in the hinge, and so the drill bit itself ends up being perfectly centered in the hole. All right. So this is something like a lot of times I'll say, well, this is how I do it, but you don't really have to need this tool. If you're doing hinges, you need this. Get this. They're not that expensive, and they will make your life so much easier. So you want to do that. So I'm going to put it in. Now, one thing you want to check before you glue your hinge strip in is, are you going to be able to fit the drill into the cabinet afterwards? Which I can here. If you cannot, then you drill the hinge strip before you glue it in. All right, so I'm going to drill this. And hopefully not go through the cabinet. VIX bits come in different sizes. So this is for like a number 5 screw. They also come in smaller versions and bigger versions. I have 3 or 4 different sizes. You don't have to get all of them, but you know. Lee Valley sells them as a set. Alright, what I'm going to do now is, well, I'm going to go ahead and drill the holes in the door first before I put any screws in. So, let's get the door into the vise.
Lovely stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's my Viz. Now I'm going to drill these holes. You get me out maybe my 3/4 inch chisel, bottom drawer, all the way to the back of that, the chisel thingy majiggy that I have in there.
The jiggy?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the hardest one to get out.
The jiggy.
Oh, thank you. That seems a little high in this corner. It still seems a little high. A little high. I'm doing this the mortise doesn't appear to, it's not quite deep enough. And I'm doing this now because I know me personally, I know myself well enough that if I don't do it now, it's probably never going to get done. So I'll just get too far along and be like, ugh, I do not want to go back and do that. So I'm doing it now. Alright, there we go. Drill these holes. Now these are brass screws, and if you're going to drill in with put them in with a driver, a drill, shoot. I'm also going to look for that right now because it'll be impossible to find later. There it is. That's why you keep a clean floor, so it's easy to find stuff when it falls. You want to make sure that you do this on a low torque setting because you don't want to twist it off in the door. Or you can go and get steel screws that are the right size and sort of pre-thread the wood. The other thing that does help actually is wax. I don't, when I'm fitting the door, I don't put in all 3 screws on each leaf. I only do the top one and the bottom one. Ooh, see? I pulled the hinge out. I'm not happy about that. I am going to go ahead and thread this middle hole.
Rob says the hinges he bought didn't come with screws. How long should the screw be?
Well, that, that's partly, it can't be too long. It can't be so long that it goes through the outside of your cabinet.
Right.
But honestly, I don't, like these look to be about 3/4 of an inch. But no, they can't be that. But, well, I'll just measure them. The overall length of this is 5/8 of an inch. That's the total length of it. But honestly, I don't know if there's like a rule or a print, that tells you how long. You want to get them in the right size, whether it's number 4, number 5, whatever. And then after you get them in the right size, I think in the door you should be able to put in longer. You can put in decent sized screws. It's the cabinet where sometimes you have to adjust them. And honestly, when the screws, I'd rather use a long screw and file it down shorter than use a shorter screw, because the screws taper, and so if you use a shorter screw, there's less meat or there's less thread contact. But if you take a longer screw and file it down, you get more of the full diameter of the screws. It's not a shank, but you understand what I mean. So you get better contact if you take a long screw and file it down. All right, let me go ahead and drill these in. And I got to be careful here because these actually will go through the cabinet if I'm not careful.
Brave.
What's that?
Said you're brave.
I am brave. But I'm also kind of stupid. As when Socrates would talk to people about bravery in the Platonic dialogues, often at some point it would the possibility that bravery was some type of stupidity would eventually come up. But Socrates would always say, well, that's not right. That can't be right. And yes, I have done a screw in too far in there's a cabinet I've made that if I showed it, probably a lot of you would know what it is. It's like this, it's a cherry and Douglas fir cabinet that has a curved front. It was in fine woodworking. Okay. And those cabinet sides were really, really thin. And one of the screws, I filed it down. It was still a little bit too long, and it started to push up the cherry on the outside. It's like I can find that spot still where it was just a bit too long, but it didn't come through, so that's good. door is normally the last thing that I make on a cabinet. I didn't do that with this one because there was so much else going on. I haven't had time to make the drawers and do the interior liner and all that. I'm gonna have to be really careful when I hand plane the outside of this cabinet. I didn't even think about that. I might have to plane those down a little bit. File them down. All right. Oh man, this is the eternal problem of making like delicate or furniture that with thin parts is that you are constantly having to re-engineer things that are made for bulkier furniture.
For ugly pieces.
What's that?
For ugly pieces.
And I say bulky, I mean that as an insulting way as possible. Just to be as offensive as possible. Oh, monkey butts, monkey butts. See, shit. I fucked it up because I thought I had it though. I tested this afterwards and it fit fine. And I think it does. I think it's just. Oh, it needs. Fridge me. And that's precisely because I wasn't thinking when I think I can still make it work. If not, Joe's going to refund everybody. So he won't go get his new car. It'll work.
Have to sell my truck.
That's not going to cover it. Oh, man. It's just so freaking close. Why is it not fitting in? This is kind of hard to do without. I should have tested this a little better after I hung it, like put the hinge strip in there. Because probably what happened was the hinge strip had some flex in it. And so everything appeared to line up, but it actually doesn't once it's glued in. And if it had been before I drilled the holes, it wouldn't have been a problem. I mean, I can still go back and fill in those holes, and it's not an issue. But but I'm trying to think of. I remember I probably adjusted one of the mortises in the wrong place. On purpose, of course, to teach a lesson. I think it's gonna be fine. We're about to find out. Hey, kids. All right. I was born with the two best possible gifts, good and lucky. All right, so it's swinging fine. So that was not an issue, ultimately not an issue. All right, so we can see the door does not close, and the reason it doesn't close right now is because it's a little too wide. But what you have to be careful of, and this will be the first thing that we do to fit it, this is something I learned from construction, like home construction. Doors inside your house, the strike plate, the strike side, the handle side, is not square to the rest of the door. It's actually angled in or beveled about 3 degrees. And the reason why is this. See, the door, when it's about like here, this back corner of the stile is actually sticking further out than it does when it's closed. And if you keep this stile edge square and you plane it down so that it closes, when it closes, it's going to have a big old nasty gap. So what you do is you trim it at that angle so that the back will clear the cabinet, and then when it closes, there's a nice gap at the front of the door. And it's about a 3-degree angle is what works out really nicely. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is get it to fit and close all the way. And then I can see we're going to need to take a little bit off the top and a little bit off the bottom. And we'll deal with that when we get there. Now, one thing I'm going to check here, and this will, as we refine the fit of the door, will come more and more into play. But it looks, so it's square. That's basically square, right? It's kind of hard to tell without a big long square if it's out. It's a little bit out of square. And so what I'll do is I'll adjust that after I get it to close. I'll sort of scribe it, so to speak, and get it to fit that way. So what I'm going to do is take the door off. Whoops. Oh, man. How many times am I going to drop a screw tonight?
Better than losing your marbles.
Joe's making dad jokes over here. He said it's better than losing your marbles. Which technically he's correct. Alright, so Joe, what I'm going to do first is do this with a hand plane. And you want to move the thing down this way? Mm-hmm. So you could tilt your table saw blade and do this. I'm going to do it with a hand plane. And you could do this just by, eyeball. And I often do it that way, but I'm going to show you another way that I've done it, which works really well. So my door hangs like this and closes in. So this is the back edge that needs to be it needs to be tapered in that way or beveled in that way. And I'm looking at the grain. The grain runs in this direction, so I need to hand plane in that direction. If I want to taper it, if I put this back corner, like angle it up like this, then I'll be planing that back corner before I plane the front corner. So what I'm going to do, I put 2 strips of basswood down on top of the surface here, and they're about 1/8 of an inch thick, and that should give us enough of an angle to clear the cabinet. And so what it's doing is it's lifting the door up so that the back corner is out further into the runway. If the door, if the grain ran in the opposite direction, I would put those strips over here, because then that would lift the back corner up and put it out further. But because I have to plane in this direction and the back edge corner is on the top, I'm putting these strips out further away and lifting up the back side. All right. So if I'm not completely full of it, yeah, it's a very slight bevel. And let's take a look at that real quick, like get a little square. Can you see that? Can you see that it's out of square a little bit?
Hold on. Sorry, it's dark in this corner. It doesn't want to focus. Hold on.
I can turn my...
No, you're good. Yeah.
Can you see that? That it's out of square?
Yeah.
Yeah? So I'm going to do that a little bit more. And once you get it established as being out of square, you don't have to keep doing this. You could just put it in a vise and use a block plane and you'll keep it at that same out of squareness. Let me check this. It's way more. Now that's pretty good. Were they able to see? Yeah. Well, let us know if you can't see that it's out of square, but it is.
Promise.
Maybe
you can see it now.
You can see it now.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, someone asked a question. Do you find the screws don't tighten as well if you have to remove the door too often? Maybe use shorter screws at the start. No, I do not have that problem. And also, there's no such thing as having to remove the door too often. You have to remove it as many times as needed to get it to fit properly. So,
Are they stripping it?
but no, you shouldn't be. It shouldn't cause a problem for the fit of the screws. I've never experienced that. All right, I'm gonna get this thing out of the way. No, it's a 16th. It looks bigger, doesn't it? Than it does right up there. Yeah, it's a little bit off, but I don't think it's going to be super noticeable. All right, so now all I need to do is keep that same bevel angle on that style and just trim the door down until it has a nice gap. Like I said, I'm not going to go, I think that gap is too big. So I'm going to go for something just a hair under that, a little bit under that. But also I know I need to take, I want the gap to be even though. When it's already, the gap up here is about a 64th of an inch. And down here it's nothing. So when I take the door off, I'm going to work this bottom end first before I work back to there. So it's not, see the case and the door don't have to be perfectly square. What's important is that the gap is uniform in size. Because if the gap is uniform in size, it will trick the eye, and you won't notice that it's at a square unless it's like 15 degrees at a square or something, you know? If it's just a little bit, that uniform gap will make it appear to be fine. I think I might need to adjust my vise a little bit. It seems to be racking, or not racking, but out of alignment. It's more beveled down at the bottom than it is at the top. Oh well.
It's the bevel of the details.
Do you have a microphone over there that you're talking into?
I hope not.
Joe's just full of the dad jokes tonight. He just said the bevel is in the details.
No question.
Alright, so now the gap is pretty even all the way up and down. And so it's just a matter of planing that to make it bigger. And so I'm going to go and take a few more passes off. We got plenty of time here. That's kind of that whole row. Don't drop the door. Earlier today, I took a box out of the clamp, so to speak, and I was sort of looking at it, and like one of the corners was a little gap. There was like a little, there's something wrong with it. So I was messing with it, just trying to see what was going on. And I dropped it, and it exploded. Like all of the joints just failed. And I was like, well, clearly there was something wrong with that box. So I just set the table saw back to 45 degrees and set up everything again. And if you just kiss those miters with the table saw blade, it cuts the glue away, and then you can reglue. And I reglued it, and it came out fine. All right. Well, if this is not good, I'm not going to do any more because it's just getting to the. Oh my God! Look at that. That's way too much down at the bottom. Way too much of an angle. Huh. I wonder if that blade is not quite square in the body. Come on. That's something to, like, if you're hand planing like an edge and it's getting out of square, the first thing I always check is to see if the plane's blade is square to the sole or the mouth, so to speak. Because if it sticks out more on one side than the other of its width, then it's going to take a heavier shaving on one side than the other, and it's going to end up creating a edge that's out of square. All right, I'm not gonna. For now, I'm not going to mess with that anymore. But man, I can't believe the door's that much out of flat. Whew. That's a lot. That's wood for you. Good old wood movement. See, that's straight. Yep. This style goes in a little bit at the bottom. So that's the real issue, is that it goes in at the bottom. Alright, so now we need to do the top edge and the bottom edge. Normally what I do here is I'll take like this square, this ruler, and whatever my gap is going to be, which we know it's not going to be a 16th. So let's say it's going to be a 32nd of an inch. I put this up against the cabinet and then mark a 32nd of an inch there, and then I come back down to this end, and look, it's almost at a 32nd of an inch already. So I'm just going to mark to where it is. So I've got a 32nd of an inch mark down here, and a 30seconds of an inch. That's actually a little bit more. All right, so I have those, and that's marking down from the inside of the cabinet to a 32nd of an inch, not marking from the edge of the door frame. So I'm going to take this off, and that way it doesn't matter if the cabinet is square or not. The gap that I just marked is going to be parallel to the cabinet. So let me turn this around. Oh, what I would do is lay this down, take a straight edge, and draw that pencil and put that pencil line on there. Now, just hand plane down to that pencil line. And I turn it around this way so that I can plane in that direction. Well, no, because because of the end grain, I sort of need to come in from here first. Will you get me my low angle block plane? This one's not quite sharp enough for the overall. And you cannot even see those wedges that I put in.
Forgot about those.
I forgot about it until just now. Okay. That looks pretty good. Put that back on. And let's see if maybe, just maybe, I haven't screwed anything up. Fitting a door is one of the things that took me the longest to really do well. I'm not sure if I do it well yet. But a lot of it was sort of figuring, it was the kind of thing where I saw people do it, this is how they do it, but I kind of had to eventually sort of come up with my own approach to it, sort of. I don't know if this is unique, but this is like eventually like I got to the point where like I was like, okay, this is how I do it. All right, so now that gap is nice and even along the top edge of the cabinet there. Can you see that? So there's a nice even gap there. And I'm not gonna, I mean, this is going pretty quickly, right? And it probably seems like, wow, that's really easy. That must be amazing. That's not the case. But it is the case. The reason why this is going so well is that the case is, you know, so square. You know, if it's really wonky, it would take longer. But it's not. All right, so I'm going to do the same business down here at the bottom. Oh, I need, let's see what this gap over here is right now. Well, that's almost a 32nd of an inch. It needs a little bit more to come off that style. What I like about doing it this way, again, is it's like I like that the door fits in there perfectly for its height. Like it touches at the top and the bottom after I've made it, and which is nice. And that then allows me to come in and do this little trick here, where you're marking up from the cabinet onto the stile. I don't know. I just like that. There's no. And it's just like there's no measuring things and trying to figure things out. It's just like, all right, I'm just coming in a set distance from the cabinet onto the door. And it wouldn't do that. We couldn't do this if the door didn't fit in there right now, like the height. So, you know, you got to get that height really close so it just fits in there nicely. I feel like I should have used the one VIX bit down in size. I think I'm going to put like a toothpick in some of these holes.
David says, and people wonder why custom-made cabinets are so expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not made by machines.
Now, if this is square, or as we say down in Florida, squar. If it's squar, I'd be tempted to cut this at the table saw, but I'm not going to tonight. Because you got to know, is this this line might be parallel to the bottom edge of the door, and yet not be square to the hinge style. But there's a fair amount of material to remove here, but we'll just get at it. And start planing that stuff away. He was like a crazed man. In there just hand planing things. He was hand planing all manner of things. There was even a block of cheese that he hand planed. Alright, I'm going to have to turn my back to everyone for a minute. Not even close. That's a little square now. No one had better ask me about wax. Wax in the bottom of it so that it goes a little more smoothly. It just needs to be further down in the vise. Alright, I turned it around so I don't have to stand with my back to the camera. Alright, let's go for a little.
Look mildly inappropriate.
Alrighty, I'm there on that. And so now I'm going to turn it around, coming from the other end, which is actually the direction that the rail is running in, on the grain on the rail is running. I definitely need to adjust that vise. Oh my goodness. What did I do?
That split?
Yeah, the apron is splitting off. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. What have I done?
Oh my god.
I feel like Will Ferrell playing. What was that guy, the Chicago Cubs announcer?
Oh,
Harry Carey. My friends call me Whiskers. Because I'm curious like a cat. I knew that was going to happen. Man, that bevel really got wonky. Yeah, I should have used the smaller Vicks bit. I didn't know what size screws these were. And I tested them out. See, like that's stripped out. Oof. Yeah, oof, that's right. Shoot. Just glue a toothpick down in there. No one will ever know. And then you just epoxy it all together. You make it a river door.
Make the whole door out of epoxy.
It's still hidden somewhere, but where was it? Right down there. That's where it's hidden. It's a good gap here. It's a little not good gap there. I gotta come back and work that side. All right. So we're gonna do that. Unless, did I not put all? I did put all the screws in. That's a little frustrating, I'll say. Yeah, it's just a little too much space in there. That's just right embarrassing.
I think you still have a screw left for each one.
Yeah. Well, no, like I said, I'll probably just put some CA glue on two toothpicks and jam them down in there. Or I'll make a plug out of walnut and glue it in there and re-drill it. You know?
Out of Purple Heart.
I'll make it out of Purple Heart. I'll find the most endangered species of wood that I can, and that's what I'll make it out of. I'll include that in backwards. Maybe. Alright, so this side needed a little bit of trimming. So I said to the man, give it a good trimming. And 2 weeks ago, I learned the bad way. You never go to, like, my normal barber guy couldn't make it that morning, so I used the neighbor barber guy at the barber shop. Oh my god.
Matt's beard has never been the same.
It's not. Like, he cut it like 18 sizes too short on the trimmer or something. Like this, I went there this morning, the guy was like, yeah, it's still not even close to the right length. I was like, alright, we'll just keep letting it grow. Just keep letting it grow. Just give it a little touch-a-roo on this way. Golly gee, Superman. Your shooters suck at woodworking. Superman could save the world. He could not make a decent table to save his life. It's a little known fact about Superman.
Neither could Chuck Norris.
Yeah. Chuck Norris kept inadvertently epoxying himself to pieces of table. That's just not good. That's just not good. I'm gonna have to fix that. It still needs a little bit of work, but it's really close. And like this up here needs to be trimmed a little bit, but I there you go. That's really good. It needs just a tiny little bit of work, but it's not worth going through it right now. Seems to be something underneath this thing. No. Is there something? You guys might be getting a lesson in something. It's funny, it's not.
Glue on the tabletop?
It could be the glue is making it rock, yeah. Well, there is that too. At least right now it's a little bowed. But anyways, let's turn it back over.
Cabinets go bad.
Yeah, it's just once I hand plane it'll be fine. That's all. So there we go. Look at that. And it's only 8:12. Man, that did not take that long, did it? So again, like I'm going to put some kind of catch up here because that will pull the top of the cabinet in the right distance. Because it kind of is walked in that way. I don't know what you say about that. Like, what's the right term?
Sweeps in?
Sweeps in. It's bowed in a little bit. But otherwise, this is a case where it's ideal to have the gap the same size all around, but that's such a big gap that I think something less than that is appropriate, and it looks fine. So there we go. Let's see. Are there questions? And people, that's just an exclamation from David. Let's see. Morgan says, "Do you have a example of the catch you would use?" I do not have an example of the catch I would use because I'm going to have to fabricate something. Most likely, what I will do is there's going to be a liner inside it. And I'll probably, I guess on this side, what I'll do is make a mortise on the side of it that gets glued to the cabinet, and I'll put a rare earth magnet in there, then I'll put a rare earth magnet in the back of the door, and maybe cover that with a little bit of leather or something. And then it'll pull it shut like that. So it'll be some type of rare earth magnet contraption. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Let's see. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks. You're welcome. Frank says, quick tips about using brass black. Oh, yeah, that's right. You asked that, Frank. And I don't know if I really have any quick tips. Sometimes I'll soak it in a little cup with the brass black and just keep an eye on it. And then you wear gloves of some sort, at least, nitrile gloves or something. And then, take it out and wipe it with, not a paper towel, but like a old t-shirt or something, and see if it's coming off or if it's not coming off. If you want it darker, you put more on it. And that's what I do. I just add more until it's the color that I want. And then after that, I guess you could wax it or something. Sometimes after you do it, the brass black, that you want to wipe it down some because it'll come off otherwise. So you wipe it down until it's not coming off anymore, and you look to see what color it is and whether or not you like that color. Yeah. Let's see. So the bigger gap on the hinge side is purely a function of the hinge itself. That is correct. Could a different hinge have a smaller gap? Yes, that is also correct. And in theory, you could mortise the door deeper, but then I think that looks kind of crappy because when you open it up, you would see that the hinge was set further into the door, and it just kind of looks yucky. So I wouldn't do that. I would leave it flush like this, and the thing is, these are the kind of things like the Kelly Dutton principle. Sometimes the solution is worse than the problem. So definitely mortising the hinge deeper into the door is worse than this. And having these gaps be, as long as the gaps around these three sides are uniform, if this one's a little bit bigger, it's going to be fine. It'll look, and honestly, no one's going to ever notice. It's not a problem. All right. Do I recommend against a ball catch? I do not. I think the larger issue for me is that the things that I make the parts are so thin that installing a ball catch is difficult, if not impossible. So there's also like the Crenovian people make I guess they use ball catches. There's an article in Fine Woodworking, I think it slightly predates me, about 4 ways to catch a door or something like that. And there's these 4 different shop-made catches. And you could look there for ideas. I kind of like the magnets, though. It's kind of simple and elegant. And there's no mechanical apparatus visible. Can this method of making a frame and panel door be used to make double doors for a cabinet? So if you had a door here, then a door that 2 doors open and they met in the center, absolutely, completely, totally, yeah. You would just have to, you would be beveling both doors in the middle, in that middle style, so that when they close, they have a nice gap in between them, But you'd have to bevel them also. If the door is perfectly flat, would you still use some type of positive stop? Would it go, or does it? The liner for me is always the stop, and that's different from the catch. So I will admit I'm not a big catch person, so I don't typically do them. It becomes a problem though if your wall is out of plumb or something, and it can start swinging open. So you have to be cognizant of that. If I'm making cabinets and selling them to people, I would definitely install it. But I don't, for stuff in my own house, I don't typically do that. Excuse me. But yeah, it's not a bad idea. But in order to do it, you have to know what you're going to do before you make the cabinet. Because you have to be ready, you have to be able to install it at the right time. All right? Because I'm using a liner and all that, I can do the magnet one at this stage, If it's something that needs to be like a hole drilled into the shelf divider or something, you should do that before you glue it into the cabinet. All right. That was the last question. All right. Are there any other questions? Hey, his mouth's on the side of his face. Let's see. I did not expect it to go that quickly. I thought it would take us, closer to 2 hours. Do you embed the magnets in the wood? Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You want the surface to be flush. You don't want a magnet sticking out just hanging out there. Yeah. I think that's what you mean by embed, Andrew. But yes, you need to mortise it make a mortise and put the magnet in there. So like I said, on the inside face of the liner, I'll probably, drill a little hole and pop the magnet in and glue the magnet in. And then glue it to the cabinet, and that magnet's never coming out. It's a tricky thing though, because the magnets have to be close enough to feel the attraction. And rare earth magnets are really strong, but they still have to be close enough to feel that attraction. If I can get a double magnet, like 2 magnets in there stuck together, I'll do that, because that will make it an even stronger pull. So, and on the inside of here, I might, drill it and have a cup in there in the magnet, which will make that stronger, and then cover it with leather or something. Cover it with something. So, all right. That answered that question. Any more questions from the peoples? I don't know how many people are out there watching right now. Oh, 11 people. Just 11 people. What do I think I will do for a pull?
Toothpick.
Yeah, I'm just gonna drill a hole and glue a bunch of toothpicks in it, and they'll come out like that, and you just no. I'm probably going to do a little thread wrapped pull, and it'll probably be a bar pull, a bar pull, and it'll be wrapped in thread, probably something like that. But I'm not 100% positive. I've wanted to do and I'm just not positive about the strength of this, but make like a hat, like an arced pull that has a cutout on the bottom of it, so there's like a little relief there, and then wrap that, and it gets stuck to the cabinet. But I'm not really confident in the strength of that yet, so I may not do that. It's also possible that I'll make something instead of I'm definitely gonna do brass black on this. So I have little brass bars, and I could make something kind of like a bar pull that and black the brass and have it sitting on feet and do that. Something like that maybe.
Rob says, would you glue in a doorstop if you're not using a liner?
Would I glue? Yes, you need to have a doorstop. So the question was, if you don't use a liner, do you glue in a doorstop? You need to have something that is going to stop it in the right place. Yes. What that is, it could be the catch, because sometimes they'll do ball catches down on the bottom, and the ball comes up, and there's just there's like a little divot in the bottom of the door. And that finds the ball, and because the ball is a sphere, it automatically centers in that divot, and so it holds the door exactly where it's supposed to be. But yeah, you need some kind of stop, and it could be a shelf even. That could sort of function as the stop.
John says, will a final planing and/or sanding affect the fit and look of the hinges? I realize you will probably not be sanding the edges.
Well, the only place that you'll affect anything is if you sand, I gotta lightly sand this style, but at this point it's not going to affect anything because the holes have been drilled, so it's still going to swing open like this. Like this is it almost swings open completely, which is good. So that's the swing of it's not going to change. The only thing that would change is how far the hinge sticks out from the front of the door. But at this stage, with just a little bit of light sanding, that's not an issue. Yeah. The question was, if you do any type of surface prep now, does that affect things? And now that the door is attached, not really. I mean, the hinge is attached.
Unless you plane a lot off of it.
Well, if you planed a lot off of it, you would see. Yeah, you would maybe end up seeing the hinge leaf or something. And it would look stupid, but it would still swing the same way.
That's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we still have time for questions.
Yes, we do.
Oh, excuse me. Oh my goodness. I'm a tired little man. I'm a tired old man. Well, if there aren't any other questions, we could stare at the screen awkwardly for 20 minutes. No, we don't want to do that. Joe and I can have an early night-ish.
Yeah.
And so can y'all. Oh, okay, that's not a question.
This was a great course.
Thank you, David. I'm glad you liked the course. Well,
What's next besides boxes?
what's next besides boxes? Did someone really ask that?
No, I asked that.
Oh. Well, I'm going to do another piece of furniture, but I haven't decided what yet. Maybe I'll do one of my tea boxes, but I don't think that would be all that popular because how many people really want to make a tea box? So I'd like to do a piece of furniture, but then that's a much bigger commitment to time and everything. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. But I'm definitely going to be doing stuff, besides boxes. We already lost one person. All right, now that person left, here's the secret to hanging a door. All right, no, that's it. All right, well, again, I really do appreciate everyone that signed up for the class. If you signed up for more than one class now, I appreciate you even more. I'm glad. I hope that it was informative, and I hope it wasn't boring. And I hope that you'll sign up for classes in the future. All right. I guess that is it. Everyone's saying goodbye now.
Vote for a tea box.
Someone voted for a tea box. Larry did.
Yeah.
All right, Larry. I'm marking that down right here on my bench.
You're number 2 on the tea box list.
Number 2 on the tea box list. I can't believe I broke my bench tonight. Well, yeah. Thank all of y'all. I enjoy these classes. We'll be back for more. Have a great life. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you soon.